I want to talk today about um, a parallel I recently recognized between the Bible and the globalists and the globalist agenda. And now, of course, in Revelation, there's a lot of globalism going on, if you will. But I'm talking about the book of Genesis. So you might recall um, the patriarchs Abraham, and then Isaac, and then Jacob. And Jacob had 12 sons. These ended up being the leaders of the 12 tribes of Israel. Joseph was, as it turned out, the second to the last son of 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 Jacob, as far as uh, his time of birth chronologically. So, and he was the son of uh, Jacob's fourth wife, Rachel. And the first 10 brothers were jealous of, of how Jacob felt about his son, Joseph. And so they conspired to, well, first kill Joseph, but nah, we can't do that. That's a step too far. They sold him into slavery in Egypt. Okay, so Joseph goes to Egypt. God blesses him the whole time. Um, he ends up being Pharaoh's right hand man. And that came about because Pharaoh had a couple of dreams, and his soothsayers and magicians and so on couldn't interpret the dreams. But one of the guys that worked for him said, "Hey, I know this fella, Joseph, who interprets dreams." So they dragged Joseph in. Joseph interprets the dreams and basically says, well, what these dreams mean is there's a famine coming, a 7-year famine, and that will be preceded by 7 good years. And Pharaoh is impressed, and he basically makes Joseph his right hand man, gives him control of virtually everything. So what does Joseph do? Well, it's the 7 good years leading up to the famine. So he takes, I'm not saying he bought, I'm not saying Pharaoh bought, I'm saying they take 20% of the crop for that 7 good years. And then, of course, now the famine hits. And this is what I just want to go through, because this is the globalist agenda right here in the first book of the Bible, Genesis. Okay, so now meanwhile, his brothers come to Egypt because they're starving too. The whole earth is coming to Egypt because Joseph has stockpiled all this food. But that's kind of a side issue. But when the famine was spread over all the face of the earth, I'm in chapter 41 of Genesis, verse 56 and 57. When the famine was spread over all the face of the earth, then Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold to the Egyptians, and the famine was severe in the land of Egypt. The people of all the earth came to Egypt to buy grain from Joseph because the famine was severe in all the earth. So now, on behalf of Pharaoh, Joseph is, selling the grain that he took on behalf of Pharaoh, you know, back to all the people, including the people he took it from. Okay, so, and some of these people happen to be Joseph's brothers and his father. Okay, well, of course, the famine continues. Now I'm out in chapter 47, verse 14. Joseph gathered all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan for the grain which they bought. And Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. Okay, so these people are broke now because they have given all the money to Joseph and the Pharaoh for this grain to survive. Okay, the famine continues. So now I'm in 47 of Genesis 15 and 16. When the money was all spent in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came to Joseph and said, "Give us food, for why should we die in your presence? For our money is gone." And then Joseph said, "Give up your livestock, and I will give you food for your livestock, since your money is gone." Okay, so step 2, take all their livestock. Now, why you wouldn't just eat some of the livestock, I'm not sure, but be that as it may, the people then give up their livestock in exchange for food. Okay, so now they have no money and they have no livestock. And the famine continues. Okay. All right, so chapter 47, 18, 19. When that year was ended, they came to him the next year and said to him, "We will not hide from my lord that our money is all spent, and the cattle are my lord's. There is nothing left, my lord, except for our bodies and our lands. Why should we die before your eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for food, and we give our land and will be slaves to Pharaoh. So give us seed that we may live and not die, and that the land may not be desolate." So the money's gone, the cattle are gone. Verse 20, chapter 47. So Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh, for every Egyptian was sold his field, because the famine was severe upon them. Thus the land became Pharaoh's. As for the people, he removed them to the cities. You know, you've heard that 15-minute city saying? Get them off the land, move them to the cities. The same thing has happened in China. I wrote about this briefly in a note the other day, so I think the answer is 600 billion Chinese have been lifted out of poverty over the last 40 years. We did that by buying from China, together with the rest of the West largely, but the world really. And where are those 600 billion people? They're in the cities, okay? This is from Genesis, okay? He removed them to the cities from one end of Egypt's border to the other. Only the land of the priests he did not buy, for the priests had an allotment from Pharaoh, and they lived off the allotment which Pharaoh gave them. So Joseph said to the people, verse 23 of chapter 47, "Behold, I have today bought you and your land for Pharaoh. Now here is seed, and you may sow the land. And the harvest you shall give a fifth to the Pharaoh." So again, they're going to continue with this 20% thing. "And 4/5 shall be your own for seed of the field, and for your food, and for those of your household, and as food for your little ones." So they said, "You have saved our lives. Let us find favor in sight of my Lord, and we will be Pharaoh's slaves." And that's exactly what happened. They didn't take care of themselves. They weren't prepared for a famine. And I could go on about this is a fundamental of the Mormon church, is preparing for this 7-year famine. But be that as it may, they gave up their money, they gave up their cattle, they gave up their land, and finally they gave up themselves as slaves. And things actually went along swimmingly for a while because the Pharaoh knew Joseph and, was good to Joseph's people. But then Joseph died off. All of his 12 sons died off. Or all of Joseph's generation died off. And by this time, of course, Pharaoh had also died off, and the new Pharaoh had forgotten about Joseph. And God was blessing the Jews with a lot of children, and the Pharaoh became worried that there were so many Jews, and should they turn against Pharaoh, there was going to be in trouble. So the order went out basically to kill all the male children, just allow female children. Okay, this kind of goes with China's one-child policy, except they didn't specify the sex, which got them into real trouble, basically, because people kept their male children, not female children. And this is why now you have a generation or more of Chinese men with no women to go with them. It's putting a big hole in the Chinese, the population growth going forward. They have a serious problem. But out of that no male children edict, this is when Moses, the people are crying out to God as slaves and asking for help, and this is when Joseph gets put into the basket, and then one of the daughters of Pharaoh, as I recall, or was it a wife? Anyway, she picks the basket out of the reeds and raises Moses as an Egyptian. And then he ends up leaving. God talks to him. That's the burning bush. And now Moses is charged with setting God's people free. But the point I want to make here is this chain of events where there's this famine, there's the good times leading to the famine, there's the confiscation of 20%, there's then taking from the people their money, their cattle, and their land, and making slaves of their people. This sounds a lot like what you've, I'm sure, heard, which is you'll own nothing and be happy. That's the WEF's plan. Now, had they known that they were entering into 400 years of slavery on behalf of themselves and their offspring, they might not have been so happy. But they were happy. So there's nothing new under the sun when it comes to human nature. Now again, this is Genesis, so the first book of the Bible. Last book of the Bible, you have similar things going on before Jesus comes back. But, one of those things is the so-called mark of the beast. And I think we have to be on the lookout for that, frankly. Basically, if you don't have the mark of the beast, you're unable to participate in the economy. You can't buy and sell anything, okay? So that's a problem. If you don't take the mark of the beast, then death is the penalty. Okay, so You're out there, Mark of the Beast comes around, you got 3 kids that you need to feed. What are you going to do? You're going to say yes or no to the Mark of the Beast. If you say no, everybody dies. You, your wife, your children, all of it. If you say yes, eternity is over for you. It's not an option. So, in the circles I travel in online, the central bank digital currencies smack of the mark of the beast. Once you accept a central bank digital currency, the powers that be can control. Obviously, they can see what you're buying and selling, because it has to be done through their central bank digital currency, under penalty of law, no doubt. But they can also control what you can buy and sell, up to and including nothing. You can't buy and sell anything because your social credit score, as the Chinese have, isn't good enough to allow you to buy anything. You need to get in line and start doing what we say. Otherwise, we're cutting off your ability to participate in the economy. So, of course, the central bank digital currency is being done in the fashion of gradualism, right? They're just going to sneak up on it. Credit cards are, of course, digital. Debit cards are digital. They have these commercial codes associated with whatever it is you're buying. There was a big hullabaloo about this a while back because they wanted a new commercial code for ammo and guns, which, of course, then can be used to track purchases of ammo and guns using credit cards or debit cards. But the idea here is to just get people used to this digital currency thing, digital money thing. How many people carry cash anymore? You should make it a point to have cash and spend cash and write checks and not have at least some fraction of your spending that is not with a card or ACH transfer through your bank or what have you. So, again, point of this was to draw this parallel between how this slavery is going to come about and the parallel with both Genesis and Revelation in the Bible. And our duty is to resist such things. The powers that be want us in that box. They want us in their 15-minute cities. They want us dependent. They want to control us. They want to take everything we have, and they want to make slaves of us. And maybe that sounds to you like that's totally outlandish. It's happened before. It will happen again. The only question is when and how firmly we resist that trend, that plan. So I'm going to also include in the notes below this video, I'll include these scriptures I read, and I'm also going to include a link to another Substacker who just wrote a post on, what's going on in Canada, and by extension, how that relates to what they want to have go on in the neighbor of Canada. That would be us, the United States. Because I think it's you read it and it defies belief almost, or it would have defied belief for me 10 years ago. Not anymore. Um, this stuff is real. It's happening. And pray for discernment. Pray for understanding. Um, pray for wisdom. Because it's right there in plain sight. Okay, it is the day between Good Friday and Resurrection Sunday. And I wish you all a blessed Recreation Sunday. And may God bless you all.